claws into sponsored anglers? Why is that happening at the minute?
My honest opinion is I think there's a lot of very bitter people out there at the minute. Like,
You do sometimes, mate.
where they called out all the trolls. Definitely think we should do it.
You just go, bosh! There you go, that should be the
It goes back to, if you're going to have a rule where it's fishery-owned pellets, got to police it. Nearly all the fisheries I go to that are fishery-owned pellets, they don't police it. Jamie Hughes and Andy Mayer do a better job than this lot.
Let them have a go.
I mean?
Sponsored anglers. I feel like everyone's getting a load of shit at the minute, like sponsored anglers wise, social media, some of the comments on here. Like you, Steve, have caused quite a stir this week with a certain post off the back of Frankie's video he put up of me breaking the ice. What's going on out there? Why is there this like claws into sponsored anglers? Why is that happening at the minute?
My honest opinion is I think there's a lot of very bitter people out there at the minute. Like, you know, that's the truth, though, isn't it? Like, it's like when I was a kid, my mum always said to me, if you've got nothing good to say, don't say anything.
Absolutely.
And yet these people, like, obviously I saw the video Frankie put up, you breaking the ice with a pole pot, and then, don't know, 50% of the comments are, you could tell me you're getting your pole for free without telling me you're getting your pole for free. And the reality is, people have got a massive misunderstanding of like what being a consultant or sponsored angler is. If they honestly believe that everything's free, they're living on a different planet. It great. I'll be honest. It just grates on me that like, and people don't take into account how you got there. You know what I mean? The sacrifices you have to make to get there, and the sacrifices you have to make now, and all that side of it. At the end of the day, it's like any other job. It's like if you're if you're a builder and you work for a company, obviously, if you want your tools, you probably have to pay for your tools at cost or whatever. Being a sponsored angler or a consultant's no different. You know what I mean? Anyone who believes stuff in life is for free is massively deluded.
It pisses me off because it's just a complete lack of understanding of what you're doing as well. Like, if anyone thinks I'm going to break my £4,000, £5,000 Z900 pole by tapping a little bit of cat ice with a pole pot, you need your head seeing to. I literally wrote on Frankie's post, I've been to Croatia using a 50-gram flat float, catching barbel with the most tightened up purple hydroelastic you can, and had it creaking and 13 meters up in the air and dragged carp out of reed beds. And like, if you really think that tapping a little bit of thin cat ice is going to do anything, like, and I'll be dead honest, what gets to me even more is even when I were a kid, 10, 12, 14 years old, I used to have an Abu pole back then. You know, that'll be as old as God's dog now.
As old as Ringer?
Yeah, nearly as old as Ringer. But we used to go out canal then. The only way to break the ice sometimes was using your pole. It's it's a technique. I need to fish. I need to get through this ice. We used to throw icebreakers in, 14 meters of pole, drag big bits of ice underneath. Never really broke a section. I can't ever remember breaking a section while clearing ice, to be honest. But I just feel like, or the thing that pisses me off is there's just this like percentage of people on social that are waiting to go, here's a chance to write something negative. Here's a chance to jump on someone. Get a life. Horrible trolls. I hate them, me. I honestly, I know you laugh at it. When I went on Nick's podcast before they finished it, before in the spring, we talked about it loads because everyone just forgets all the good that you try and do for fishing on a Facebook post. And it's so annoying. If I could go and hunt them down and go to their house and tell them what I really thought, I'd love to. Or sit down in front of them and go, look, this is what we're trying to do. I'm not breaking a bit of thin cat ice with my pole to really piss you off or annoy you. I'm just clearing a peg of ice, mate.
No, but you know those people that obviously put the comments, when you meet them in person, they won't say anything.
Nice as pie.
Yeah, they won't. They'll be like, Great to see you, Matt. Amazing what you're doing for the kids.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
We should do that. We should get a camera and go around, like they do with the postcode lottery. And then you can just go, bosh, there you go. That's for being a twat.
Nash, we've talked about this before, Matt. Nash did an amazing Christmas video a few years ago.
Yes, they did, yeah.
Where they called out all the trolls.
Yeah.
And did little named them, did little videos about the comments. I definitely think we should do it.
100% agree. 100% agree. I just feel like, we had a meeting at work the other day, and Danny Fairbrass came in, and we were with the sales reps, to be fair, wasn't it, Room?
Yeah.
And he just gave me a real good reminder. He was like, look, when you're getting a bit of shit, when you're getting this negativity, whether it's from some shops or whether it's from the public on socials, or just remember everything that we do that's good for fishing. We don't have to be out when it's freezing cold, icy, to make a brilliant film, to inspire more people to go fishing, to give people, we don't need to be dragging you out in freezing cold, Room last week filming, Ringer this week, to bring people some brilliant content to help them catch more fish, for youngsters to watch, to come into sport, all that good that tackle, not just us, other tackle companies as well, everything the whole industry do, it really brings me to the boil when I see the little comments just because they can. And when Facebook weren't a thing and when social media weren't a thing, then people wouldn't have been able to have that opinion. And they don't really deserve it, really, I don't think, if they're going to be negative like that with complete lack of understanding.
It's a very shallow point of view, isn't it? So sometimes people, have a right to say something. That's what it's all about, isn't it? Socials. But I think it's something nice to say, because it gets a bit boring listening to the same old shit all the time, doesn't it?
Basically,
people just don't appreciate what the effort and the cost that we go to do these things. And, if we're doing things that upset certain people, we're doing it because we need to continue as a brand and provide the service we're providing. And obviously we want to bring good content to people, keep people interested and keep people fishing.
It's just a nasty little snidey dig that, like you say, when you've done a post, I've had it before. You can do a post, you can get 200 comments, 198 of them are really nice, constructive, maybe asking for advice, and then there's 2 horrible trolls, and you come away remembering the 2 horrible trolls.
Yeah, that's always the case. But to be fair, on the last one, we've had some fantastic comments, haven't we, about what we've been doing and this format. I think there's lots of positives out there, but there's a few little I'm not going to say the word idiots that try and ruin it for the rest, and it's usually because they've got fuck all better to do, innit?
Yeah, and one thing as well, we've got to hold our hands up. If we don't like it, we should not be on social media. We should come off it. I know by being how we are and being a sponsored angler like Steve, like you, Roon, the face of the brand, like for you, Roon, you going onto social platforms and talking, that you're going to be exposed to a little bit of flack from these sort of characters. So people will probably comment below saying, if you don't like it, don't do it, don't go on it.
Absolutely, yeah.
We've got you got to have a certain amount of shoulders to you because you're going to come into it. But I think that the message we want to get across is just think about what you're actually writing before you go ahead and do it, and don't be a bell end.
Look at the bigger picture.
Yes, exactly. On a similar sort of thing, one of the questions last week were really interesting, and I think it's a great question. It's by Connor Course Fishing Journey 7680.
Connor Course Fishing.
Yeah, that's the longest YouTube name I think I've ever seen. And he's put, "Hi chaps, I had an argument with a very respectable match angler who runs a YouTube channel."
Name and shame.
Yeah, tell us who it is, Connor. Who currently doesn't have a bait sponsor, but as of the argument, he did have a bait sponsor. My argument is, doing a lot of arguing here, Connor. You're not one of these trolls.
Get him on the way in.
Connor the troll! I'm only kidding. It's a great question. My argument is that during a match, he said he was using a prototype ground bait and was being very successful and winning matches. I thought, as that's not an even playing field, that it shouldn't be allowed. If I can't buy the same bait as you, I feel it could be an advantage. He said, so you don't want me to test the company's products, ? I said, yes, but not on a match. Have separate testing/field days with that product. What are your two thoughts on that? I'm going to go with you to start with, Rune.
Well, like that guy who hasn't got a bait sponsor and is in that position, is in that position for a reason, isn't he? So obviously the non-bait sponsor that he has obviously trusts in him to test the ground bait. And yes, it's great testing ground bait in pleasure conditions, but you get a very different result. It's like if you go pleasure fishing, you'll probably catch a lot more than you will in most matches. So pulling the bait into a match will give you a bit of a true reading over time, won't it? If it's good or not. So I don't see why he can't.
Steve, I know what you're going to say about this because you are.
Is it you, Steve?
Is it
No,
you, Steve?
it's not me.
I
don't know if it was Connor. Someone posted this on my page the other day about sponsored anglers. Like somebody with a bait deal shouldn't be allowed to use a ground bait that's not on sale. But like, but what they seem to be missing the point is I could go anywhere and buy like different ingredients off the internet, mix them all together, and I've got a ground bait different to what's on sale. So
yeah,
I don't really get the point of it, if you know what I mean. Like, it's not even about testing the ground bait in a match situation. It's about the fact, if you want to, you can buy 10 different ground baits, mix them all together.
Frankie does that, doesn't he? Frankie does that.
Your mix is then different to everyone else's. So, like, but like I could go on different aquaculture feed sites on the internet, buy like 5 different ingredients, mix them together, and then use it. But like, that's just using initiative. That's, you know, I mean, my attitude is it sounds to me like Connor wants to go to a fishery, to have fishery-only ground bait, fishery-only pellets, fishery-only maggots, fishery-only casters, and everyone to have exactly the same bait. Whereas half the fun to me is trying to find edges. You know what I mean? It's not like the edges aren't out there. Even if if a guy's using a new ground bait that's been not available yet, all those ingredients will be available. It's just you've got to get off your backside and go and look for them. You know what I mean? There's loads of different sites on the internet where you can buy ground bait ingredients. If you want to make your own mix, you know, when we used to do it back in the day at Castle Ashby, because back then there wasn't mainstream fish meal or pellet based mixes available. And like half the fun was thinking my mix is better than everyone else's. And I still think there's a part of that today is in anglers should be looking to find edges, not just use the same as everyone else.
Yeah, I think there's lots of good ground baits available now that are much better than 20 years ago when doing your own ground baits did really make a big difference. But like they're all pretty much ready available now. And the edges now, I'd say, with ground bait technology, or unless you come across something that works really well on a venue, are very small anyway. So I think you can't use that as an excuse for getting battered on a match.
No, but if you're really into your ground bait, then go the extra mile. Go on some of these cart bait sites or whatever. Buy a few different like additives, powders or whatever. Add them to your mix. You know what I mean? Look for an edge. Don't be lazy, Connor. I think that's my final say on it.
Going on poor old Connor. He only sent a nice little question in.
He only asked a question. How we're going to send him a bag of the new mainline match prototype to say thank you for sending in a question.
Is that the one you've been winning on at Allcroft?
Yeah, but no one else has got it.
He didn't use it. But he didn't use it yesterday.
Yeah. Why are you lying? Your last few results have been dog shit.
Didn't you fish at the weekend and get an absolute smashing next peg at Glebe?
No.
Yes, you did. My mate Macaulay blew you out of the park, he said.
Yeah, he did actually. Yeah, he drew the end peg though. It was good. The fishing was brilliant. I thought it was going to be a bit hard because we'd been glebing the week, hadn't we, when it was like nearly frozen. You know, getting out there, getting content so people can just slag us off for going fishing.
It was frozen, so we used a pole to smash the ice.
Joking. But anyway, yeah. It's good. Do you want me to tell you about my match?
Yeah, you've not fished one for a while, and this is the start of the Golden Rod campaign, isn't it?
It's my first match since July.
Is it really?
Yeah. Good. Come on, look at that for a bag. So I drew peg 73 on Lake Flora at the Glebe. So, and it was, what is it, Golden Rod? I always get mixed up, Golden Rod. I love their matches. You get such a good crowd of lads there and that. It was brilliant to see everyone. I've got a list of the no-shows. Do you want me to go through them?
Yeah, go on then.
There was 12 no-shows. I'm going to read them out now. So name and shame them all. I'm not really, but there was a few no-shows. But as far as I'm aware, they'd let Phil know. So, but it was a really good match, and obviously them not turning up give us a little bit more room and time to organise the pegging a little bit better. So it's pegged really nicely over quite a few of the lakes. But typical this time of year, MPEGs dominated. But the start of the match was weird. There was like little balls of fish in areas. Like 2 lads on my lake probably had £50 in the first hour. Bearing in mind the week before, £18 won my lake. So it was I was a bit slow out the styles or whatever they call it. But it was good. Just fish tight across. If you had a bit of like an undercut or a bit of cover, there seemed to be a few fish there. And it just got harder as the day went on. The fish started to move when the light dropped. I had a lovely day. I caught £65, mainly on a maggot feeder, sort of just down the middle.
You don't hear about maggot feeder fishing anymore, do you?
No, not really. But I fished across. My across wasn't very nice. And I spoke to Nick afterwards, and he said, you've pretty much drew one of the worst pegs on the venue there. So I think my performance was brilliant, to be fair. But I caught 3 fish across, not much else. And then I caught all my fish at like between 18 and 20 metres. Put a bit of bait in at the start, some prototype ground bait that no one else had, and some liquidised corn and a few micro pellets. And then
pellets?
No, I used my own, never used fishery pellets. And then
don't start on that one, Rude.
I thought for that, didn't I, before? And then I fished over the back, like just over the back of the bait with a little, the little Drennan carp maggot feeder. Because you have to fish with a 50 centimetre hook length, and fished over 13 to an 18 Kaiser. And I just thought hopefully it'd be a place to get some bites. But I caught a couple of roach early on, and then I had a steady run of carps. You catch 3 or 4, then you have to take a bit off. And I think the bottom's quite soft there. So you catch 3 or 4, and then I missed a few bites, and it got a bit messy. So you just sort of took a metre off and went a bit past your bait again, and sort of caught a few. But the only thing that was a disaster was Mac in the corner. He'd had a pretty woeful first few hours of the match. There was fish in his swim being in the corner, and he lost a few, just couldn't really sort it out. And then I think because I hadn't fished the far bank, when the fish moved down the lake to the MPEG, they went straight past me. And I was thinking maybe I should put some bait on the far bank to hold them up. But he fished a sensational last hour and a half of the match. He probably went from having, 5 fish to having 16 or 17 in the last hour. Again, he caught on maggot feeder, but right across in this like little undercut, fished a lovely little match, and took the lake out with £83. I was second with 65, and then Zach further up, who had probably £50 in the first hour, ended up with a 65, just 3 or 4 ounces less than mine. Let that be a lesson to you, Zach. But yeah, it was good. I think who won the match? I think he won the match. Speedy won the match off MPEG on Lake 6.
So you needed to win the match to qualify. He was
my lake and that lake were in together. He had £135. Absolutely took it out. You don't want to give that guy a chance anywhere, do you? Because he's just going to absolutely destroy you. No. But it was good to see everyone. Lovely to be out on the bank, and the weather. It was wet, horrible, but the fishing was good. So it was really good. Cool. What about you girls? How did you get on?
Didn't go.
Yeah, we had all feeder pairs. Since you talked about proper fishing on here 3 weeks ago, can't catch anything.
Oh dear.
It was tough to say the least. Thankfully for me, it's a pairs event, and I'm fishing with a good angler, Denter. He had 16. No, Lee weren't there this week. I was gutted, to be honest. Normally see him running match.
Did you FaceTime your peg?
Yeah, I did. Then he managed £16.5. He drew a really good peg, to be fair, which we needed. he had 16.5 pound on bridge, roach on a feeder. I chipped him with £3.7, which was mainly one skimmer.
Oh, proper fishing.
Proper fishing. Yeah, no Tommy Rough this week either.
No, good old Denty, isn't he?
Oh, fantastic! But we ended up sneaking up to second in the league, which was good. But it's wide open in it, Steve. It's so heavy, and these areas we know. Like Frankie had one skimmer, bless him, didn't he? And
yeah, if you look, I was saying to a guy on Facebook earlier. Obviously, he said there's plenty. Obviously, a long way to go. I said, you look at it. Chris Greenside and Ben Holmes lead the league. They were £10 behind going into that round. They're now £9 ahead.
Yeah,
wow.
And I think it'll be like that all the way through. So
yeah.
Which is good in a way.
Yeah, not the way that we like, but
no.
Rather everyone caught plenty of fish and you can actually feed some bait. And
Steve said it's good in a way. Matt's face like, no, it's not.
No, but it is good for mass participation. It's just frustrating.
Yeah. It is. Yeah. One thing I'd say, I don't want to go back, but what Connor's saying about the bait there, obviously, Connor, make sure you drop us an email. Anyone who gets the question read out, as always, info@tackleguru.co.uk. We'll send you a few goodies. Thank you for writing in.
It's like a bag of ground bait from Mainline we can send him.
We will actually send him that.
He won't, but he can't use it in matches then.
No,
because obviously he'll be a man of his word, won't he? Because obviously he'll stick to what he's.
Steve, stop going in on the poor lad. Leave him alone.
Probably only 12.
He'll be trolling him on Facebook in a minute.
He won't. I've blocked him.
It's gone on for years. The bait debate has gone on for years. Bloodworm and joker. Anglers going and getting their own brilliant quality bloodworm and joker. Who wants to be balls deep in a swampy pond in winter getting hook bait? No one, but the people that go to the extra effort, they get it. Exactly. And things like you say, Steve, experimenting with additives and bait. And I know you used to chuck tuna in your ground bait, Rune, and salt and stuff like that. You know, I think that what I don't agree with, Connor, I think it's a great question that a lot of people might agree with him on. I completely disagree and think that a part of getting an edge is making your bait better than other people's, trying to look after your bait and make it better quality. When we go away on things like world champs or big competitions, festivals, you always, get up early, sort the bait out so yours is better. It's a part of getting an edge for me, and I'm sure that a lot of anglers will say the same. So, yeah, I think prototype ground baits, different ground baits, stuff that other people can't get should be allowed in matches, definitely. And
experimenting, Connor.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good. We'll send you a few prototype mixes, Connor. Something that we've touched on, another question here. Again, controversial-ish. It's from Bushy. Remember Adrian Bush from Artelroon?
Yeah, I know him.
Bush, yeah. And it's typical of Bushy because he don't like parting with a quid, I'll tell you. He's as tight as a duck's ass. But he's just watched the weigh-in and got to say, I love it. But I have a quick question for you. Why fishery pellets in big letters? We have to keep paying out at venues for the same pellets, i.e. Screttins and Coppins, but it's just in another bag with the venue's name on. But you can stick any pellets on your hook that aren't Coppins or Screttins. Very interesting spellings going on here of Screttins and Coppins, Bushy as well, by the way. I know it's a controversial question that fishery owners don't like talking about, but is it a gimmick just to make more cash from the angler's pocket? Adrian Bush. What are your thoughts on fishery pellets? This is a big one. It's a good one.
Who's going first?
I'm going to go with you, Rune Dog.
Ow! Fishery pellets. I think the main reason, and this reason probably changed over time because a lot of people use the coarse pellets now, is to control what's going in the venue and the intensity of the oil content and whatever people are using if you've got no regulations. So from that angle, I think it's really important. The annoying angle, which everyone will probably agree with, is that you're putting in something that you can go and buy from elsewhere yourself because they're just sort of either standard Screttins or Coppins pellets. But it's important that the fishery has these things in place, because if someone starts catching on halibuts and everyone's dumping halibuts in, you're going to probably have problems later down the line with the quality of water. So yes, I think it's important, and I can understand why they do it. And also it's a big yes that it's obviously a way of that fishery making a little bit of extra money, which in my eyes is, you know, if they don't make money, they're not going to be there for you to fish. So they're not actually like taking the piss with the price. They're usually very, very good value for money at the fishery, because they haven't got to send them to a shop. The supplier's not sending them to a middleman. So the cost is just direct from the supplier. So they're usually good value for money, to be fair. But I think, yeah, why not make a bit of money from that as well? You know, unless someone's going to sit on every peg on the venue every day throughout the whole year, they have to make money in other ways. That's why a lot of fisheries have CAFs or, you know, shops on site or whatever they wish to make money from, you know, and that's the way it is. So I don't know why people moan about it. It's annoying, especially if you're sponsored, because obviously you're getting your bait for free and then you have to go and buy some when you get there. You've worked hard to get your sponsorship, and then you have to buy some, but rules are rules. So get them fishery pellets brought.
What do you think, Steve? Bro. You
know what I mean? I think the reality, we could all say it's for the good of water quality and all that, knowing what's going in. But the reality is it's there to help fisheries, as in make a bit more money. You know, that's the sole reason for me. Is I don't believe it's to do with monitoring what goes in the water. It's just a fact is they can maybe make a bit more money rather than charging it on the day ticket. My criticism of it is, and this goes back to an earlier episode of the weigh-in, fishery pellets, you know what I mean, like years ago, I'll say obviously, I used to go Tunnel Barn a lot, and Tunnel Barn is a fishery pellets venue. But what quickly became apparent was I was one of the only people buying fishery pellets. Mm-hmm. So obviously we're all fishing. It's got a massive sign saying, I don't know if the sign's still there. This is going back quite a few years, to be fair. Massive sign saying, don't get disqualified today, fishery pellets only. And then I'm one of the, probably if there's 30 people on the match, I'm one of the only 4 people who's bought a bag of fishery pellets. So my opinion is, it goes back to, if you're going to have a rule where it's fishery owned pellets, got to police it.
Love it.
You know what I mean? Otherwise it's not fair. It's like, some people will say, well, if no one else is using them, why are you using them? Well, in my position, I can't afford to be caught using my own pellets when it's fishery pellets, even if everyone else in the match is.
You get slacked off enough for having free kit, Steve. Never mind.
Exactly. I've seen so many. Nearly all the fisheries I go to that are fishery-owned pellets, they don't police it. So, like, but I obviously I can't take the risk in my position. But it's frustrating and annoying when you walk along before the start and virtually everyone you see isn't using fishery pellets, or they've bought one token bag and then mixed it in with 3 of their own or something like that. So my message to fisheries is, if you want fishery-owned pellets, particularly in matches, I haven't got a problem with that, but police it so everyone's using the same. You know what I mean? I just think that's where it lets itself down, because you get your regulars, you start going all the time, and then they're like, well, obviously they're regulars, they don't get checked. That's my honest opinion. Yeah. I haven't got a problem with fishery pellets. I don't believe, though, it should be hid behind and saying it's all for water quality. It's to help the fisheries, make a few more quid. You know what I mean? Particularly at the minute, winter, it's tough out there for everyone. I haven't got a problem with that. But from a match angler point of view, the most frustrating thing I've found, and it's not just at Tunnel, I've seen it at multiple fisheries, none of them, well, if there's 30 blokes there, less than half of them are using fishery pellets.
Yeah. I think the water quality thing is important, Steve, to a certain extent. We had it at Hayford years ago where, like 20, 25 years ago, trout pellets were cheap and everyone was using them. And when we stopped people from using trout pellets and went to like a coarse pellet, it did make quite a big difference. And I know Foy at Kiverton, I mean, them pellets he uses and sells are absolute dog shit. You can't even get them around a method feeder, but they're a lot more healthy for the fish than
yeah, like, but I don't think, especially there's very few anglers now that I know that use anything other than coarse pellets.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying now.
Yeah, but even back in the day, you know what I mean? Halibuts or high oil pellets were never really a massive thing.
Trout pellets were cheap, weren't they? They were really cheap.
That's maybe, but I think everyone just spread to coarse pellets. And my honest opinion is now the fish are conditioned to coarse pellets on a lot of our venues.
Yeah, you catch better on the actual pellets.
Yes. Yeah, I was talking to Peter Bacco the other day about Hungary, and he was saying how in Hungary, obviously, everything's high oil. They don't have fishery pellets.
No.
But all the best pellets are all high oil out there. They can't catch anything on our type of pellets.
No.
Because the fish, they haven't got the attraction, and the fish don't know what they are. So they don't see enough of them. So if you went there with a bag of coarse pellets against their high oil aloe aqua or whatever they use, the aloe aqua win every time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like when Makings changed their rules from like the green swim stims, for a long time, you could use whatever you wanted, all the greens, and greens were better for ages. It wasn't until they sort of moved over. So they do get in tune with what they're being fed, which is, important to know, isn't it? Especially for, what's his name, with the prototype ground baits. God, I forgot his name.
Yeah, he might struggle on that prototype mix if they don't know what it is.
Yeah.
He's going to change his name to Connor Prototype Fishing 246 on
YouTube. Stick to fishery pellets, mate. You won't go wrong.
It's hard, isn't it? Because there's so many ways around using fishery pellets. Like you say, Steve, you can buy a bag if they've got markers in, mix them in with your own pellets that are, like Bushy says, exactly the same, standard screttings, standard coppins. You can, if I went down in my garage, I've got a box with all fishery pellets bags in. And I know for certain about 5 years ago, I went to Western Pools, so they used to have little black markers in theirs. They had a really good batch of 4mm Coppins pellets, and I bought a load because I was going to Western quite a bit at the time, and I've got about 8 bags still left downstairs. They must be 5, 6, 7 years old. And the same every year we go to Lindome for the commercial national, and I think it's 3 bags for a tenner at Lindome or something like that. Little blue markers in them, and I've got dozens of bags of them because every time I go, I buy 3 bags, spend a tenner, chuck them in this thing when I get home, and then you go back the next year and you think, well, they're a year old, I better get some fresh ones. But there's so many ways around it. I suppose you need a very potent marker pellet in your pellets. And every now and again, if you really wanted to police it, you'd have to be super strict and say, every year I'm changing the colour of the markers and I want you all to be using fresh pellets with this year's markers in. Because I could go to Lindome all the commercial national campaign this year and not buy a pellet because I've got enough from last year downstairs still. And the one thing I will say, out of all the fisheries, Lindome is the place I have been checked more than ever. And they've always done it. They've disqualified anglers in the past for not using fishery pellets. And even up till recently, Alex and Aaron, they go round on an odd match. You got your pellets, let's have a quick look. Where's the bag? Yeah. And they look at the markers, they look at the bag, and it's brilliant. And I'm saying they sell more fishery pellets than anywhere. Everyone's shit scared of going to Lindome and getting caught without them. And everyone goes and buys them. It's because they police it.
But that's how it should. That's how it should. Obviously, people shouldn't be scared. But obviously, that's how it should be. It's police. Everyone's on the same playing field. Personally, and this is a slightly different debate, I'd rather fisheries did away with fishery-owned pellets and charge £2 more for the data kit or whatever. That'd be. You know, I mean, I remember talking to Andy Bennett about it. I'm sure Partridge would. They had a bit of a thing at what I don't know whether they're fishery pellets now or not, but in the past she was like Babs was like, I'll charge an extra £1 data kit and stay as we are. And long term, over a year, the fishery had unless they're checking like Lindome, which is obviously different, a lot of fisheries would make more money charging just £2 a day extra for the angler, because a lot of pleasure anglers don't bother buying fishery pellets anyway.
I think you're 100% correct. 100% correct.
Interesting debate.
Very interesting. But what we're basically saying, Bushy, is unfortunately, in conclusion, it's very much out of control. If I owned a fishery, I'd want to sell a load of pellets and make a load of money on them. And I think that's the thought of most fisheries because they are a business at the end of the day. So I'm sorry, but I don't think we're in control of it. Fisheries are always going to have their own pellets. Maybe it's good for water quality. Maybe it's a money-making thing. I don't think it's a gimmick as such, mate. I think that it's just part of life.
Good question, though, Bushy. We will send you a bag of pellets from Parts Hill.
Yes, stop being a tight bugger, Bushy, and go and buy some pellets. Another one that's relating to this, like, sponsored angler, sort of professional angler theme. Good question from Mark-T7D4L. He's put a question for the weigh-in. A top Irish angler recently did a video on his slow-sinking feeders, and in turn, some organisers here decided to ban or not allow them. They must be a shop-bought feeder and unmodified, fall under their own weight. I personally think it's ridiculous to ban something like that when it's just another form of presentation. It's the top anglers tweaking things that helps us become better to catch more fish. Have anglers become lazy? ? Jealous of anglers thinking outside the box ? Someone had a method feeder before everyone else, and it's the evolution of methods. I'd love to hear your thoughts from the show. I think that's a great question, highlighting a topic, and it's bang on theme with sort of what we're saying. You know, good anglers, are they getting an edge, or are they just spoiled, and should they be punished for stuff like that? What do you reckon? I'll go with you to start with on this one, Steve. I'm assuming this is coming from sort of the Jacko Cathal.
Yeah, it is. Jacko and Cathal, I think, pioneered it and obviously kept it. It's not an easy one to spot if you're next to someone doing it, from what I understand.
What's this?
So they had it to a
feeder?
Yeah, obviously it's a slow sinking feeder. They had it to themselves, and obviously caught a lot of roach on Inniscarra doing it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but it's like it doesn't work every time. From what I understand, conditions have to be perfect, etc., etc. So you could argue it's just another string to your bow. The only thing I'm slightly skeptical about with it is what is feeder fishing? To me, feeder fishing is fishing on the bottom with a weighted feeder. Like, obviously, we had an issue with this in the World Championships in Portugal at Cabacau, where obviously you're fishing for bleak, which horrendous fish to fish for on feeder.
Horrendous fish on stock.
Shocking on a whip, never mind a feeder.
And obviously,
shit, aren't they?
Slow sinking feeders were used. Obviously, because bleak are a species that live up in the upper layers. So rather than using like a 2 meter hook length, slow sinking feeders were used, or feeders with no weight on. And I don't know, it wasn't great. To me, that's not what feeder fishing is. And after that, a rule came in with I can't remember the exact feeder weight off the top of my head, but it's something like 15 gram minimum feeder weight. Feeder has to sink on its own regard, so you can't put some foam in it to slow it down. But personally, I take my hat off to anyone that innovates. You know what I mean? And my attitude with it is, if it was allowed where I was going, I'd just learn how to fish it. Yeah. You know what I mean? I wouldn't bleat and moan about it. It comes down to the rules. Do I think it should be allowed in feeder fishing? It's up to the organiser. I probably wouldn't allow it if I was running the matches. And that's not because I'm scared of it. It's just not because it's because I don't really consider that feeder fishing. It's like, and obviously you've got a lot of variables to try and police. Let's say it wasn't in Ireland and it's a very shallow venue and the fish are really high in the water. What's to say the feeder's not actually floating? How do you police that? You know what I mean? So I'd rather personally, if it's a feeder only match, I'd rather have a minimum weight, feeder sinks to the bottom, everyone's on the same playing field. But if rules allow, then it's up to anglers to catch up, so to speak.
What do you think, Rune Doggy Dog?
I think innovation's great, isn't it? It's what we all thrive for. And I think if someone's in a situation and they've read that situation and learned how the fish want to feed and they've created something to catch them, absolutely fair play to them. Simple as that.
Yeah.
But like you say, if it's like an international competition where there's rules, stick to the rules. There was no rules telling them not to, was there? So
no, they don't broke any rules.
They haven't even really taken advantage of the situation. They've come up with an issue and they've fixed it. So absolutely fair play to them. I think it's brilliant. And that's how innovation happens. You know, the ones that moan about it, the ones that can't be asked to do it, innit?
100%.
Yeah, I think it's really good. And like you say, feeder fishing doesn't, like, if it was a feeder on the bottom, it would say it's a sinking feeder match, wouldn't they? Not exactly said. Like you say, these rules are great to bring in, but you've got to police them, like Steve said. But I think it's great. I think people that innovate stuff and people that think outside the box to create these things and give them a little edge, that edge won't last forever. Like Steve said, you'll get it one or two occasions, but yeah, hats off, fair play, love it, absolutely love it.
Totally agree. This is another interesting one from I love the YouTube name here. It's just @Fredry. Good name, that, isn't it?
Fredry.
Yeah. Fredry. It's going down the sponsored anglers route again, and I think I wanted to ask this one because it involves me, it involves Steve, and it involves you, Rune, especially from an opinion point of view. And it just sort of opens up that big picture or the mindset behind some of the more successful or, let's say, unsuccessful brands. Fredry has put, loving these podcasts, fellas, really interesting and refreshing to hear your no-holds barred honest opinions. Following up on Rich Chapman's question regarding sponsored anglers using other companies' product, how does that work with sponsored anglers and team fishing? For example, Steve using Drennan kit when fishing for England, or Matt using Drennan for Barnsley Blacks. Is team fishing sponsored differently, i.e. only clothing, or do Matt and Steve have to use Drennan equipment when team fishing? And it'd be interesting to know Rune's opinion on this from a brand point of view as well. Keep up the good work. What are your thoughts on that? I'll go with you to start with, Rune, because obviously you see this quite a bit. You've got quite a lot of anglers in your sponsored anglers team that go team fishing with a team sponsored by other companies. And I always think you manage it really well and quite professional about it. But for people listening, they might think you get frustrated at that. How do you handle it, and what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I think it is what it is, really. But with my sponsorship for my individuals, I expect them to be full kits. You know, everything they use is what we're providing and supporting them with. And the only issue comes is if they decide they're not using it or decide to go fishing in non-Guru clothing when they're representing the brand. You know, if I'm looking after you 100%, I expect 100% back. And, you know, there's contracts, there's rules, there's regulations, and if everyone sticks to them, that's fine. But when it comes to team fishing and when it comes to international fishing, that sponsor of that team or the international team is doing exactly what I'm doing. They're investing in that group of anglers and supporting them to allow them to compete in world championships, allow them to compete in winter leagues, and they're putting their own money up. So I'm 100% behind it. That, like, for example, with you and Frankie on your winter leagues, that you wear Drennan clothing because they support you. And that's, for me, that's absolutely fine. You represent yourself and you sponsor when you're fishing as an individual. And if you can, in any team events where there's no other sponsor coming in. And then if you're on duty for your country or your team, then you wear their clothing and you support them. And then anything that isn't relevant, you can use your Guru, which I think they're, on the other hand, really happy for you to do so as well. It's a massive investment and a lot of hard work and effort to support international teams and big teams like Barnsley. You know, you've got to respect it. And I think that's the easiest way to look at it. Yeah, don't get me wrong. You know, if you win something big and you're all there in Drennan clothing, I'm like, oh, half that team's my Guru boys. Do you know what I mean? It does a little bit, but I totally understand it and respect the situation. I've even, obviously, along many moons ago, when I used to be part of the feed squad, I had to wear Preston clothing. You know, but you know, you're proud to, because you're representing your country, and Preston have invested money for you to be there. So I don't see the problem in it, but I can see where the guy's coming from with that question. Yeah, Steve,
angler's point of view, thoughts?
I think obviously Rune's covered a lot of the points. I have noticed, like, obviously I fish for the Drennan England feeder team, which is obviously sponsored by Drennan.
Yeah.
They put a lot of money into it. Like, so if you're putting money into something, as Rune said, you want something back. You want something back. Otherwise, what's the point? It's a two-way street. Obviously, sponsorships are massive, particularly at world level. You'll know, Matt, because obviously the float team hasn't currently got a sponsor that I'm aware of.
Why hasn't it got a sponsor, Matt?
Don't know, mate, at the minute. Obviously, there was some controversy when Drennan left the sponsorship and no one else has really come into it. But I don't know who's actually actively going out and really looking for one at the minute. And I think if I sort of were to ask you the question, what would make you, because you're the brand, you're one of the big brands that could potentially sponsor the England team. My question would be, what would make you want to sponsor it? Because I think that
started winning, wouldn't it?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? That's the thing. Why, whereas I know you sponsor the under-15s team, and you go like super deep into it, and sort of what Frederi's asking. You commit everything to it, the clothing, pay for everything. So we completely plaster them in Guru. Success rate of it, not great. We've won one. We try our very, very hardest with it. Is it, what would make you want to sponsor an England team, a senior England team?
Yeah, with the juniors though, that's like progression through our bringing the kids to that level, isn't it? With the pathway, with Match Academy, with the entry level stuff that we do for the kids, it's like a reward at the end. It's like a transition for those anglers to go through with something to look forward to at the end. And what I always wanted to do was make the entry level to fishing for your country the most special time it could be, and that was what I always wanted, because that was never there when I used to do it. And yes, if I sponsored the men's team, I'd probably get a lot more exposure and a lot more reward, but we'd have to look into it to see if it warrants doing it. But I can totally warrant what I do with the under-15s, because we've looked after them from the first day we met them when they're sort of 6, 7 to 10 years old, So I can see that and I understand it, and I want to make it special for them, as like you do. You and Denty and Bill give up your time to teach these kids, like what they get to learn on that international scene from you three is just like absolutely phenomenal. And the support they get with people like Joe and that's been in it for a long time, Joe Roberts, that it's extraordinary. There's no one else can offer that, but we do. And that's why I invest all that money into that.
It's an hard one, the whole international thing, mate. Like, obviously you say it'd help if you started winning. Like, we try our very hardest, though.
People don't realise how
I commit my life to represent. Yeah, you do. You do sometimes, mate. Because literally, I give up. I take so much of my life away to do that, and people go, "Oh, why aren't you fucking won again?" Like, I think we're ranked number one in Europe and 2 in the world. We very rarely come less than sort of 4. Yeah, but it's really hard to win nowadays, and so it really does hurt when people are like, "Oh, you're not won." I think they've won 5.
I think as well. Obviously, Matt.
We've got him now.
You know what I mean? Without a sponsor as well, I'd guess that it's costing you $2.5 to $5 grand a year of your own money.
I reckon all in, I spend the last sort of 5 or 6 years, I've spent $8 grand plus a year fishing for England,
and that's of your own money. That's
It's horrendous, really, that, isn't it? At that level, it is absolutely horrendous.
I also think it's worth clarifying. Obviously, going back to the question, obviously from the England feeder team point of view, with Drennan, they provide us with clothing, obviously luggage, that type of stuff. But everything, the rule has always sort of been, obviously rods, reels, line, hooks, feeders are your own. Basically, that's because it'd be very tough. And Peter Drennan's very understanding of this, and his support is massively appreciated. It'd be very difficult to fish, obviously, with Guru, Aventus Distance, Steve Ringer rods or whatever all year, and then turn up for a week in Lithuania where we were last year and be given Drennan rods and said, right, fish with these for the week. That's just not possible. And obviously sponsors like Drennan, they see the bigger picture we wear Drennan hats, Drennan clothing. All our luggage behind us is Drennan. They've even done us casting mats, brollies, like special team England brollies, etc. But the actual rod, the reel, the feeder, the line, the hooks is what you use day in, day out. It's what you're used to. It's what you're comfortable with. But I always get, whenever I put a picture up after an international event, if there's 50, 60 comments, 5 of them will be, I didn't realise you'd signed for Drennan. That's just how people are. They see the picture and they associate it with. But sponsorship is very, very difficult to get. And Drennan are one of the few that are still back. Well, obviously, we are as in Guru with the under 15s. But I'm not even sure how many other teams have even got a sponsor.
Not many at all. And like you said, Drennan sponsor the feeder team. They sponsor Barnsley, who do well domestically. And obviously world club champs wise. But it's hard. I can see why it's difficult, because also if I think sponsors as a whole get a lot more quick wins out of sponsoring individuals, and it's a lot more at home. Guru is a UK company, Drennan UK company, Preston UK. Like, I feel like the core of the company feel like they get more by sponsoring individuals on home ground. They see the results a lot clearer and better, and it's a lot more instantaneous for them. Whereas if, like, if Census were to sponsor, well, not Census because they give us bait anyway, but if Nitro were to sponsor Team England, for example, they'd be sponsoring me and Denty, who are both the most Guru people possible. Will Raisin and Cam Hughes, both deep in with Diower, Sean Ashby, Census, Steve Hemingway, Drennan. Like, they'd be giving a lot to 6, 7, 8 individuals that are not Nitro anglers. So they'd have to really have big picture vision and a marketing campaign, and probably a little block of time where they wanted something to work to make that happen. A little bit like Drennan have with the feeder team, I think. They've had a good few years now working really hard at it. And I think last year when you guys won, one of the things I was most happy about was seeing how I was like, yes, they've got something back. Peter and Drennan have put loads into that feeder team. When you guys won in Lithuania, they were a massive part of me from the trade point of view. That's like, brilliant. They've got something back for that. They committed to that team. They supported that team. And boys have done absolutely phenomenal. And you've got
they
something
put the effort in, though, don't they? They put the effort in, they make sure everyone's got everything they need. They support the team. And also they create the coverage as well, which is so important, because without the coverage that Drennan do and those films that they've done, most people wouldn't hear about it or see about it unless you knew where you were looking. Would they?
Not at all. Not at all.
And it's the same what we do with the under 15s. Another expense is to send the media guy to cover it. So, and I think that's where we lack in our industry and our sport is.
I think, we lack.
Yeah, the levels you can get from it, and really for those international teams in other sports and stuff, you need external sponsors like I don't know, Nike or Rolex or those other sponsors, and that's when it could get big and proper. But you need to be able to. People need to be able to see what's going on. It's not covered like it could be, and if it did have to get to that level, and that's when external sponsors would probably make a big difference. And another way of getting people and getting money into the sport would be to open it to betting. So because if betting there, people will want to see it, and other sponsors would come in then, and that's how you make it big, like darts and snooker and those events. But is that what people want? Is that where they want it? Is it possible to get it to that level? It's tricky.
I do feel like, though, to get international fishing back, the importance it has in, because international fishing is far more important to countries in the rest of the world than the UK. I get the impression now. But the way to get it back is obviously what Drennan are doing, is in obviously sponsoring a team, going out, sending a media team out there, covering it, showing what happens, drive the interest. And I feel like that's where we, as a country, are sadly lacking. You know what I mean? We're not. People are proud when you win. I always think people are very proud of their international teams when they win, but then obviously if you take the opposite side of the coin, it's like with yourself, Matt. I know how difficult it is to get a medal. You come back and you've got a fifth, and you read third comment down. Here come the horrible trolls. Probably time for someone else to have a go.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but that's the comments, and people just don't. You know what I mean? Like it's like Jamie Hughes and Andy Mayer do a better job than this lot.
Let them have a go.
I mean?
Have a go.
Yeah, exactly.
If they wanted to come and do it, because they would. Trust me, if people like that wanted to fish for England, they could, but they don't want to.
No. But obviously you always get that comment, and you've come back, you're fifth. Like in your instance, you've spent a rake of your own money. You've looked forward to it. You've prepared for 2 months solid. It's the highlight of your year. You're driving back feeling like you feel like just driving off a cliff. And then you read some comment saying, I think it's time to change the team. And you just think, what? And you think, what's the point?
Again, you're going to be open to stuff like that, though, isn't it?
I was going to say it's a broad shoulder thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like I don't go and fish open matches ever. Don't go and fish little festival. I haven't got time to do it.
No one in the England setup, well, even in the feeder set, possibly other than Waco, does much. They don't do much fishing other than the international because they haven't got time to do it and dedicate to it.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's how good you've got to be, though. Now, isn't it? You can't do it all. You've got to focus and put every effort into it. And fishing on the international scene, there's no financial reward at all, is there?
No.
But it's the only way that you can, from experience as well, Steve, when you win on that stage, there is not a better feeling like
that feeling in Lithuania. Bear in mind, we hadn't won for a fair few years, and we've had silvers, you've had bronze. But even when you've got a silver and bronze, it makes the drive home a lot nicer. I'm never going to argue about that. But you're always looking at the team in the middle of the podium, thinking,
"Want to be them?"
Yeah, there's envy. I want to be them. So when you get the chart, when you finally win, and you understand truly how hard it is to win, there's nothing even comes close. There's not, you know what I mean? Like you can't replicate that with money or whatever. No. Being the best in the world and have everyone clapping you, it's not going to come along every year. Some years you can't win. So when you do win, it's the most special feeling ever.
Yeah, I'm not that. I'm definitely a bit of an emotional person, I suppose. But every time we've won one in recent years, the kids, the World Club champs, the European champs, I have genuinely cried.
Yeah, I cried. Me and Waco, I pulled up behind Waco in Lithuania. We looked at each other. You're both going to cry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Burst into tears. I don't think there was a member of our team that day. Maybe Rob Wotton, but other than that, everyone cried. You know what I mean? Because it's like a massive release of emotion. It's everything you want. And with us, there was also a start of a bit of doubt. You start to think, are we ever going to win again?
Yeah.
So when you do, that emotion just pours out, and you can't. You know what I mean? People will say, "What a bunch of pansies crying over a fishing match." But
I think that's the drive, though, isn't it? That is the what it builds up to. That's the head of it.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Amazing.
Interesting. Very interesting.
We got you back up there, didn't we?
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? When you put an effort into something and people, it is difficult.
Looks like a Jolly Boys outing to me, anyway.
Yeah. We talked a lot about cormorants last week, and I can't turn this show into that again. What I would like to say, though, is loads of people got in touch with us from various outlets explaining and exploring how people can deal with it and the things that need to be put in place so that we can actually have some data, like you stressed last week, Steve, which is the only thing that we can present to Natural England for them to action against cormorants. Now, those few links to report them and a little bit of information, I don't want to bore everyone with it on here, but we're going to put it in the comments or in the description to this video. And there'll be some information below from great sources about where you can report cormorant sightings. And if we can get on board and do more of that, the threshold for how many we can shoot, where we can shoot, and all that can be actioned and lifted and changed. And one thing that's obvious, speaking to a few of these people, Rob Harris, I had a good chat with him in the week, Steve, is it can't just happen overnight. Until we start to do something ourselves about it, and the only thing we can do is collate data, it's not going to happen.
No, but people need to realise, obviously, I know I posted about it after you did, put a picture of a load of cormorants at Boddington, like just working relentlessly. People need to understand just writing on Facebook, shoot the lot, isn't going to achieve anything. You know what I mean? It's a pointless statement. We all know what needs to happen, but just writing on there, you know what I mean? Some people have written, ignore the law, shoot them yourself. That isn't ever going to happen. So the best thing to do is get off your backsides. If you spot a load, obviously you're going to put a link in, start reporting the data, and it won't happen overnight. But at the minute, if we don't report anything, it won't happen at all.
No, exactly. 100% not. I think Rob said there's something like a 3,000 limit for shooting UK wide a year. But the only way to get that up is to get an area license. So I think fishers can shoot 2 a year, but if they apply for this area license, it gives them an ability to shoot a lot more than that in a densely infected area. So by creating more of these sightings and reports in hotspots, that enables the people in that area to shoot a lot more of them. So you can see how and why it can work, but the crux of it, like we all explained last week, is we as anglers have got to do more. We've got to do the reporting. So please have a little look at the information below. Have a little look at the links if it's something that you care about, and get some reporting done, definitely.